Welcome to Driftwood Stories, where ancient rivers still murmur in the dark, and the stars remember names long forgotten. Here, beneath the hush of night, we drift into a world that once was, where time moved slower and silence carried the voice of creation. Tonight, we turn our thoughts to water, not the crashing of waves or the storms of sea gods, but something older, quieter. A river, a circle, a breath of silver flowing round the edge of the world. This is the story of Oceanus, a titan unlike the others. He sought no throne, no battle, no dominion. His was the power of patience, of balance, of ceaseless flow. With his gentle presence, the earth was wrapped, nourished and stilled. Long before the Olympians and their thunder, before even the Titans took to war, Oceanus encircled it all, the first keeper of calm, the first lullaby of the world. So rest now. Let go of the day behind you. Close your eyes and feel the soft tide of sleep begin to rise. We are drifting outward to the rim of creation, where starlight kisses water and a quiet God flows forever. Chapter 1. The Waters Beyond the World. Before Olympus cast its shadow, before Poseidon's trident stirred the depths, there was a river. Not a river that carves through valleys, nor one that rushes with rain and stone, but a river that cradled the very shape of the world. Vast, circular, and without beginning, it flowed in perfect silence around the edge of everything. This was Oceanus, not just the name of a titan, but the endless current that embraced the earth in its arms. He was water before chaos settled, flow before form, the soft pulse beneath creation, born of Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. Oceanus did not rise with might or fire like his brothers. Where Hyperion blazed and Coeus pierced the world with thought, Oceanus simply flowed, patient, eternal, content to move in circles rather than climb to thrones. His waters were deep and calm, carrying the silver light of stars upon their surface. Trees dipped their roots into his currents. The winds paused to listen to his hum. He did not rule the seas, for the seas were not yet born, but in his endless path the idea of sea was dreamed. To gaze upon Oceanus was to see movement without haste, strength without noise. He watched the birth of mountains, the stretch of sky, and wrapped it all in his liquid breath. Nothing escaped his reach, yet he claimed nothing for his own. He was the edge that held the world in place, and though others would rise with fury and fall with flame, Oceanus remained, ever circling, ever flowing. The first great whisper of peace, in a world still finding its shape. Chapter 2, born of earth and sky. In the beginning all things rose from two vast beings, Gaia, the earth, broad and deep and fertile, and Uranus, the sky, high and gleaming, full of stars, yet untouched by wind. From their union came the Titans, mighty spirits of nature and time, each embodying a force of the newborn cosmos. There was Coeus, bright with hidden thought, Hyperion, blazing with sunfire, Creus, Iapetus, Thea, and Cronus, the youngest, his gaze sharp with ambition. But Oceanus, he was different. He did not shout or strike. He was not shaped by flame or fury. When Gaia's roots pressed upward and Uranus bowed low to kiss her brow, Oceanus slipped quietly between them, not to divide, but to flow. Born not from noise, but from space, from the longing between earth and sky. And beside him, radiant and vast, came Tethys, his sister, his equal, his counterpart in all things. If Oceanus was the current, Tethys was the wellspring, deep, nurturing, brimming with unseen dreams. Together they did not build palaces or fashion weapons. They wandered, they circled, they listened to the soil's breath, to the hush of shadow, to the low hum of stars turning above. Other titans looked inward, staking claims over fire or wind or stone. Oceanus and Tethys looked outward, to the edge of the world and beyond. They found no need for thrones. Their power was not to rule, but to surround, not to conquer, but to hold. And in that they shaped the gentlest kind of strength, the kind that nourishes, that connects, that remembers without needing to speak. Where others grasped, they gave. Where others shouted, they flowed. And so, while the world rumbled with new gods and growing power, Oceanus and Tethys traced the edge of all things hand in hand, water and life, circling softly in the silence. Chapter 3. The Children of Oceanus and Tethys. From stillness they brought movement. From silence they sang the world awake. Oceanus and Tethys, gentle and vast, did not forge children in thunder or fire. Their offspring were not born with spears or wings or crowns. They were born in murmurs, in morning mist, in the hush of rivers winding through new soil. First came the Oceanids, 3,000 daughters, each one a spirit of water, cloud and dream. They flowed across the land in droplets and streams, in vapours and tides, in morning dew on petals and in tears shed beneath the stars. No two Oceanids were the same. Some brought life to forests. Others guided the flow of wisdom, or danced in the clouds to bring soft rains. They bore names like Doris, Metis, Styx, Electra, and Calypso, names that would echo down myth and memory, though most were as quiet as their parents. And then came the Potamoi, the river gods, sons of Oceanus and Tethys. Each one carried the shape and soul of a river. They were broad and bold, curling through mountains and plains. Achelous, whose waters turned golden in the sun. Scamander, who would one day flow through fields of war, yet always return to peace. Nile, Eridanus, Alpheus, each river with a spirit, each spirit born of the endless stream. These children did not command the world, they nourished it. With every rivulet and rainfall, every ripple on a pond, their presence could be felt, not in fear, but in blessing. Not as gods to be feared, but as kin to be loved. And in every Oceanid and Potmos, a part of Oceanus flowed, his rhythm, his quiet care, his choice to surround rather than to strike. Where others raised armies, Oceanus raised rivers. Where others stirred storms, he sent his children to feed the roots of the world. They were not conquerors. They were keepers, keepers of water, of memory, of balance. And through them the song of the endless river spread, across the earth, beneath the stars, and into every living thing that ever thirsted for peace. Chapter 4. The World Encircled. The earth was young, still finding the curve of its mountains, the hush of its forests, the pulse beneath its soil. Stars blinked uncertainly above, and the moon wandered without rhythm. But around it all, always, endlessly, flowed Oceanus. His river had no delta, no spring. It did not cut through land or tumble over cliffs. It was the edge itself, the great circle, the silver band of water that wrapped the world in an eternal embrace. To the ancient Greeks it was said, if you walked far enough in any direction, beyond the plains, the peaks, and the restless sea, you would reach the brink, and there, gently lapping like a lullaby, would be Oceanus. He did not roar, he did not rage, he cradled. He bore no temples, yet the winds bowed to him. The stars leaned close, mirroring his curve in their own silent spiral. The sun, golden and newborn, bathed in his waters each evening, and rose from them again at dawn, renewed by the soft breath of the river's edge. Oceanus was not the sea as we know it, not the domain of Poseidon with his storms and chariots and salt wrath. Oceanus was before that not a ruler of water, but the idea of water itself, water as boundary, water as blessing. The roots of trees reached for him. The dreams of sleeping creatures were carried on his current. Even the stars, it is said, rode upon his flow, slow, majestic, endless. And far from the thunder of Titan quarrels, far from mountain thrones and skybound battles, Oceanus circled in peace, not because he was weak, but because he was complete. He did not need to rise, he simply remained. The world might change, gods might fall, empires might rise like foam upon a wave, but Oceanus, he flowed on, a soft blue thread that bound creation together, a lullaby humming beneath the turning of the world. Chapter 5. A World at War. The world, once young and still in bloom, began to darken at the edges. Whispers drifted through the leaves. Mountains groaned. The stars flickered more anxiously in the sky. For though Oceanus circled in calm, his siblings did not. Cronus, the sharp-eyed titan of time and scythe, had grown restless beneath Uranus's endless reign. Gaia, the earth herself, stirred with quiet grief. Her children, buried deep by the weight of the sky, longed to rise. And so the sickle was forged. A silent pact was made. The first wound was struck not with flame but with silence. A sun severing sky from earth, a world shuddering in the act of birth. Cronus took the throne, and for a time a golden age gleamed. Yet fear is a shadow that clings to power, and Cronus, like the father he had overthrown, soon turned wary of his own children. One by one he swallowed them: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, fearing the shape of destiny that chased behind their steps. From peace came trembling. From trembling, conflict. The skies began to burn with anger. Brothers turned upon brothers. Old vows broke like frost beneath the morning sun. Titans gathered in secret, some with Cronus, others against him. The deep rumble of war grew louder each day, but Oceanus did not move. He circled the earth still, as he always had, not out of cowardice, but out of clarity. The war was not his. The throne was not his prize. The world needed stillness as much as strength. Tethys wept at the stories told by their daughters, of rivers turned red, of mountain fires, of stars that blinked out and did not return. Yet Oceanus remained steady. He sent the Oceanids to soothe, the river gods to cleanse. He would not take a side. He would not bear a blade. He chose to flow, even as the world splintered. And though the Titans raged and Olympus began to rise, the circle at the edge of the earth never broke. Even in war, Oceanus flowed. Chapter 6. The River's Choice. The Titanomachy had begun, a storm that would reshape the cosmos. For 10 long years the heavens trembled, lightning struck mountains until they bled fire. The earth split beneath the fury of gods and titans alike. From Olympus came the new ones, Zeus shining with thunder, Poseidon with oceans rising behind him, Hades cloaked in shadows and silence. From the old world came Cronus and his fierce kin, Atlas with the strength of 1,000 stone peaks, Hyperion blazing like a dying sun, Coas whose thoughts turned sharp as knives. The sky became a battlefield, and in the heart of it all, a quiet current continued to flow. Oceanus stood apart. He did not lift a hand to defend Cronus, his brother, nor did he take the side of the new gods, his nephews. He watched, listened, and circled the earth as always, his river now reflecting fire instead of stars, sorrow instead of dreams. Tethys came to him, her voice soft as rainfall. "Should we not choose?" she asked. "Should we not help shape the world we birthed?" Oceanus did not answer at once. His thoughts were long and deep, like the trench of the sea. He watched their children, the Oceanids tending to wounded land, the river gods trying to hold together the paths of life torn by war. "No," he said at last, his voice barely louder than the breeze. "We are not fire. We are not storm. We are what endures. If we become like them, who will be left to soothe what they destroy?" Tethys understood. She wept, not from fear, but from the ache of love watching the world break. And so Oceanus remained neutral, a choice louder than any roar. He became a quiet vow in the middle of chaos, a steady current in a world of crashing waves. Others would call him passive, but those who understood water knew it is the gentlest thing that wears down mountains, the softest touch that leaves the deepest memory. When the war ended and Olympus rose into the heavens, Oceanus was still flowing. He had not fought, and in doing so, he had preserved something sacred. The circle, the breath, the peace that someday the world would need again. Chapter 7. Eternal Flow. The war ended not with triumph, but with silence. The Titans fell, and the Olympians claimed the sky. Zeus on his high throne, Poseidon stirring the waves, and Hades taking the underworld beneath his dark cloak. The old world shifted, and with it, names and powers passed from one age to the next. But Oceanus did not fall. He was not cast into the depths like Atlas. He bore no chains, no punishment, for he had not battled, had not grasped, had not clung to fading glory. He had flowed, and in flowing he had remained untouched. Poseidon was named ruler of the sea, of its storms, its salt, its kingdoms of coral and rage. His trident cracked the waters and stirred them to action. And yet, beyond the furthest foam, past every coastline and tide, the ancient river still curved quietly around the earth. Oceanus had not been conquered. He had simply stepped aside. He did not envy Poseidon's rule. The sea within the world was his to command, but the river beyond the world? That still belonged to Oceanus, and in the dreams of mortals, in the deep memory of myth, Oceanus remained, not as a god of crowns or quarrels, but as something deeper. The pulse beneath the tide, the hush before the storm, the edge of the map where old sailors whispered of waters that could not be crossed. He no longer walked the world in form, but his presence lived on. In the still pools beneath moonlight, in the circular flow of seasons, in the way all things return, again and again, to where they began. Tethys too withdrew, her light dimming into the clouds and mists that carried her essence. Their children, the Oceanids and river gods, continued the quiet work of healing and holding. They whispered to roots, they sang to stones. Oceanus became a myth, but myths, after all, are just memories that flow too slowly to forget. He was the old current, the border no storm could cross, the peace that remained when all else had passed. And he still flows, even now, if you listen, in every circle drawn by wind or water, in every calm breath between heartbeats. Chapter 8, Sleep Beneath Flowing Stars. Night has fallen gently across the world. The stars shimmer above, their light soft and ancient. The earth breathes in silence, wrapped in the rhythm of tides and wind. And still, Oceanus flows. His great river, unseen by many, glides silently around the edge of everything. No waves crash upon his banks. No ships sail his curve. He is the quiet border between the known and the forgotten, the last breath before the beyond. Beneath his surface, stars reflect like dreams waiting to be remembered. The clouds above carry Tethys' hush, cool and comforting. Somewhere far away, an Oceanid sings to sleeping trees. A river god stirs the reeds, and the wind turns softly in its sleep. Oceanus has no throne, but he rules the lull of the world. He has no crown, but all things return to his embrace. Even the Olympians, fierce and bright, must rest. Even Poseidon's sea must calm, but Oceanus does not sleep, for sleep is his gift. His current carries the breath of night. His flow hums the lullaby of the earth itself. And as you lie still, drifting through these ancient waters, feel his presence wrapping round your thoughts. A circle, a river, a quiet, endless peace. The world turns slowly in his arms. The stars shimmer above like droplets upon his tide, and you are safe within his current. Let your breath slow, let your heart rest. Let go. For Oceanus flows on, cradling you in the deep hush of time, where all things begin and all things return. Good night, dreamer. The river watches over you now.